everybody should have the opportunity to have a standing ovation in their life. And I was like, that's true, that's great. So if this starts out a little wonky, it's because I lost my first 2 cards and I had to handwrite them. So. But I'm actually going to reintroduce everybody so that, because we have 2 Sarahs on the stage, and it's Sarah P and Sarah B, and that would get very annoying very quickly. So we've got Paulson, Bean, Annalee, and Burgess. There's no tests out, but you know, for me as a producer, one of the things that was really important was that we'd find nuance and context, and that for all of the people who are portrayed in the show, that there be a sense of humanity. I was curious, just wanting to start out, this will be for everybody, but starting out with Burgess, and then I think for the other 3 who performed, it would be great to know not only also how, well, with Sarah or Burgess. Sorry, I'm going to mess that up right away. I'm a little nervous.
Monica.
I know. Where's my therapist?
I'm sorry, I'm really sorry.
Okay, so actually I didn't ask you the question, Burgess. So the question is, how did you achieve that with the humanity and nuance? And then for the other 3, kind of adding into that, what was important to you to bringing to your character in this production, and what was the hardest thing about your character to nail? So that might be all sorts of questions, but you guys know where we're going.
I think every choice you make as a writer needs to be, character first. In this case, I was like locked in history, so every choice people made isn't something I can change. I think your job as a writer always is to fully commit to the point of view of the character in each scene they're writing. So for me, that's about like taking the brakes off and going fully into whatever story someone's telling about themselves for the reasons for what they're doing, what they did, and letting go of things, sometimes even morality. We're all sort of locked in our own subjective experience, and there are people in this story who do like super questionable things, to put it mildly, I guess.
What do you mean?
But I felt like it was my job to try and understand those things, and to spend time alone with people in quiet moments, and to see people struggling, without concealing sometimes people's bad impulses, or as long as we sit with those things, I think I had faith that what people did could be understood, I guess, to put it kind of inarticulately.
Oh, microphone, right, okay. You can tell I don't do this very often. So what was most important to you for bringing to your character to the screen for the production, and what was the hardest thing about your character to nail?
I guess I'll start. Hey, we have an audience. Hello. Guys, smile. Please sing.
Please sing. Please sing. Just start singing.
Just like I'm so overwhelmed that there's human in seats together. Anyways, that's a miracle. So when it comes to this, amen. When it comes to the Paula Jones of it all, I just wanted to make sure that her intention was first and foremost, because I think that was what was lost in her narrative when it was presented to the world through the media. And so I was really lucky to lean into this beautiful writing, because it was all there. What this woman wanted first and foremost was to please her husband. And I think that's what's most surprising to people when they watch her piece of the puzzle. And then I think what was most challenging for me working on this woman was making sure that you could still connect to her as a human with your memory of what we see her publicly. So, you know, we see people in life all the time as actors and we go, wow, that person is wild, they're so broad, they're physically big, and they have a, you know, an extreme accent, but they're real, they're a real person. And so sometimes when you bring that to the screen, you want to make sure that we can still connect to it, that it's not a caricature, that it's still human, that it's still grounded. And I think that was sort of my challenge, to just make sure that the audience could continue connect with this person, even through her accent, her physicality, where she came from. And I think that's what was one of her challenges in the media as well, and the way that we viewed her back then. So yeah, I'm really grateful for this writing over here, because it was real good.
Yeah, purchases.
How do I answer any of these questions?
Well, I was gonna write them that all the answers were like, Monica's amazing. I figured that might be a little
hardest part about playing you.
I know.
It's just surreal. It's so surreal. I think that for me, which everyone hates when I talk about, but I was 4 when this happened. And so for me, so much of it was new and unknown. And I'm as much of a blank slate as you could possibly be. And everything I was learning was sort of learning for the first time. And I did not know your story. I don't think any of us did. Oh God, Beanie, don't cry this early. I don't, the story that we got is not the story of what happened. And it was my job to show them what happened. And I think to not think about you as a character, but sort of the project, the hardest thing for me was I've never been in a drama. So we talked about this all the time. I looked at Sarah one day in January and I was like, I did a play in college that I would consider a drama. But Ryan came to me with this role, and it is a traumatic, painful story that you had to live through, and it was my job to honor that. And if people didn't understand the depth of your pain, I wasn't doing my job, and that was the hardest part.
Well, how the fuck am I supposed to follow? Honestly.
Sarah's doing what we call a trip dip when she starts talking like Linda Tripp.
Surprisingly. You don't have to look at
No,
me.
but it's hard. It's
I know.
surreal because you and I have become real friends.
That's for later.
I'm sorry.
But yes.
I
But
think
you are an extraordinary actor, and I think anybody who has seen anything you do, that you put an extraordinary amount of work into what you do, and so that's what we all want to hear and see. So it doesn't matter who you were playing to me. So
That's very generous of you, Monica. Truly. I think for me, the thing that mattered to me the most was also the thing that was the hardest, which was how do I find a way to, I didn't want to think about humanizing her because I saw her as a human, and I thought, let's not, what I didn't want to do, and this was of course the great gift of Sarah's writing, Burgess's writing, was that she didn't take any of the hard edges off of Linda. And I think there's a lot to dislike about her personality. I think it's challenging for people to sit with a person who is unhappy or seems to be unhappy. So I think it was very important to not try to engender goodwill and feeling with the audience, both as a performer and in the writing. Because we were trying to honor the truth of what happened. And there is undeniably an irrefutable fact, which is that there was a real betrayal. that happened. And there was no way to, it was a little bit of a challenge to sort of go, how do I move around it when I can't move around it? But I think Linda might have been trying to move around the reality of what she was doing. So how do I hold a little bit of the part of Linda that refused to see what she was doing and to think about the consequence of what she was doing and to hold on to a sort of more virtuous intention in her mind that was not at all really what the consequence would be for you. Her. You guys, yes. So that was really hard to figure out how to walk that tightrope of not judging her, even though I did and had thoughts that I sort of came to the project with, and made me hesitate terribly about playing it until I read it, and then I thought, how do I not do this, because the writing was so extraordinary. So both the thing I wanted to do with it and the thing about actually doing it was both the desire and the hardest part, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you described that really beautifully too, around just in terms of trying to go around the betrayal, and I think you showed people the version of Linda of what she told herself, and she continued to tell herself, I think, for 20 years. So. I know, love you. So 3 months before Ryan Murphy came to me to talk about being a producer on this project, I had gone to the movies with a friend, opening weekend of Booksmart, which was amazing. And there had been these moments for me where I was watching Booksmart, and I just kept thinking, God, Beanie reminds me of me. When I was a late teen or in my early 20s, there's something about the emotional truth she's brought to this moment. And didn't think more of it after, except it was a great film. And then 3 months later, I'm talking to Ryan, and Ryan said, well, I think Beanie Feldstein should do this. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I have chills right now. So it was, Beanie was the first choice, and for all of us. And so I have a question, which is that one of the really beautiful things that I've heard about the show and about your performance is that there have been people who luckily did not have the same experiences I had, but they managed to find in your performance, they managed to find touchstones that were the same for them, that they felt the same. And so I wondered if that was intentional on your part, of sort of creating this separate space of both inhabiting Monica, but also having an aspect of Monica that other people could find themselves in.
I think, and we've talked about this, but I think for me, I understood where Monica at the time was in her life, which is, if any of us are older than 23, we understand, which is, you've just graduated college. Who are you in the world? Who are you in the workplace? Who are you without an institution or family setting? Who are you when you're by yourself and you're in the working world and you're dating and all of these things? And Burgess's insane writing takes you to that moment where you're entering life, for the first time. And I think we can all understand what that feels like, that moment of transition, that moment of kind of taking on a new identity, trying new things on. And I think so much of what I saw in you at the time was a dichotomy, a bundle of contradictions of very insecure and very confident, all in one moment, all in one breath, very kind of wide-eyed and new and fresh and simultaneously savvy and understanding and so bright. And I think that contradiction, that push and pull, it's in every word that you wrote. And I really understood, even though our lives started similar, two girls from LA, you know what I'm saying? But obviously are different. I understood that feeling, and I think it was so beautifully captured. and really is a universal place to start. And I think people maybe didn't think they could ever understand what you were going through, but really they can, because we've all entered the world and thought, who am I in the world? Who am I at work? Where is my life going, you know? And then I think additionally, those that have suffered true heartbreak and sort of the messy ride of heartbreak and what it is, completely understand what journey you were on.
Thanks.
I need tissues up here.
So Paulson, you and I knew each other a little bit before this started, but we developed a friendship during production. And there was a moment for me in the beginning of everything where I thought, like, what kind of actor is she? Is she the kind that, like, is she gonna tape me and betray me and befriend me? And because she needs to have this, like, lived experience. Because I'm not an actor, but, you know, we all hear about those things of, right, where the person, I don't know, I'm not saying this eloquently.
The method acting.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. For the record, Sarah did none of those things. And
So you think.
again with my therapist.
Sorry.
But I also think too that in having to be adults, we both acknowledged to each other in different ways that Sarah needed to, as an artist, Sarah needed to have this artistic freedom to find her Linda, and that I was going to have my experience of Linda from what happened to me, and that neither of us, I think, we never tried to change each other's minds, and I think we just both respectfully held that space. So, was that hard? Yes. At times getting my cards mixed up. Okay. Don't hire me to be a moderator. This is what you get, guys. Free moderator, you know. But so, you know, I have a couple questions here for you, but very sadly, Linda did pass away last year unexpectedly during COVID. And I remember after I had my own sort of wobbly reaction, I thought about you. And I wondered what that felt like for you, because you had already started to embody Linda's world and create this character. And I also wondered about if that changed, did that change how you felt you were able to portray her? Did it give you more artistic freedom in some ways? And then after you talk about that, I'm gonna add more, take notes. I also think too, I don't know if any of you saw last week, Linda Tripp, who was Linda's only daughter, was interviewed in Vanity Fair. And as a producer, I was really pleased to see this article, and as a subject, it was a little more complicated for me. And even though Mondays are my therapy day, I'm still processing. But I think it's really important for the show and for you as an actor and everything you did to talk about this. So I want you to also, please just like let everybody know the gist of the article and how it made you feel. So all those things.
Okay.
Do you want my card?
Can I reverse? I can only answer the last because that's what's in my brain, and that's just the limitations we're working with here tonight with my brain. The article was, I guess, Allison had given an interview, and people wondered, they had done that in the beginning of the season after the first episode, and they were doing it again at the end of the series. And she said she wanted to hug the shit out of me, was the title of the article, which is, you know, but great, I guess. It was very moving to me because I think her dying in April, I believe it was, yes, it was April 8th, I think. And we were supposed to start at the end of March, and obviously we all know that the COVID story began, and so we didn't shoot. And I got a million texts as if I knew Linda, or if I were Linda. I was like, I never met her, I don't know. But it did make me very sad. because I had spent so much time sort of immersed in this world and talking to people and reading things and watching her and listening to her, particularly on the Slow Burn podcast at that moment when it happened. And I ended up realizing that I was, I think, counting on something that happened when I played Marcia Clark, which was that I had this moment with Marcia where I got to experience with her what it felt like to have people sort of recognize, and this could be, we'll talk about this with our therapist together, about what they felt about Marcia. And obviously it was very different. Marcia didn't betray someone that she was close to, but there was a lot of blame placed at her feet for the loss of that trial. And I became close to Marcia after we finished filming. And I guess I imagined deep down that there was some fantasy that I had, that I would get to meet Linda, and that I would maybe, hopefully, have it be a pleasant experience, or hope that maybe I would be able to do something, having read the scripts that Sarah had written, that she might have expected this to be another hose down of her, when I think in a lot of ways there is humanity given to Linda to a degree. So the article that where Allison gave that interview was very meaningful to me, because it made me feel as close as I could possibly be to Linda, to have her daughter say, there were moments where I was eerily creeped out about what Sarah was doing.
I was too. There were moments for me too. Sorry.
I care about your opinion too, Monica. I do. It matters to me. Monica. I'm very sorry. Anyway, it was
Which Weight Watchers dinner should we have tonight?
So it was very meaningful to me, but it was also I think I had to let go of this moment that I thought I was going to maybe get to have with Linda, that I sadly did not get to have. And it didn't make me feel more free playing it. I felt a sort of deeper responsibility, because I kept thinking about her children, and you know, the Saturday Night Live component and the John Goodman component and all of that stuff. I felt very conscious of not wanting to hammer an already very hammered nail deeper into the wound. You're like, right, yeah.
No. I know, okay, because honestly,
Yes,
I think you know I want
do.
you to have that.
I do, and I'm very grateful to you for
Yeah,
that.
I don't know, it's a good, but it's, well, I know also too, Burgess, I don't know if you experienced anything, because both Vernon Jordan and Linda, sorry, wow.
Paging Dr. Freud. Yes.
Exactly. Because both Linda and Vernon Jordan passed away during the process of the production, if that impacted for you.
How I wrote it.
Mhm.
It actually didn't really. I think with Vernon Jordan passed away this year, and I the scenes that I knew I'd written for him were so grounded in the sourcing, and then I honestly had you to talk to. You read these scripts, and I knew you would tell me for the scenes when you were in the room, you know, how dead on I was or wasn't, and by that time you and I were sort of deep into that process, so I knew I could lean on you for that too. And with Linda, it just didn't change how I felt about writing her at all.
Okay, interesting. So I know that there are two people who are not here, a few people of the producers who are not here tonight, but Brad Simpson and Nina Jacobson and Burgess and I spent a lot of time during production talking about status and class differentials that were ever present in this story when you looked at the kind of merry-go-round of women that the story was looking at. And in particular connected to the media attention. And so Annalee, I wanted to ask you, because I was on set the day you filmed the scene of Paula in Penthouse, which all of you just saw. That was a very, very moving scene. It was very moving when I was on set, and it was moving when I watched the episode, and heartbreaking in many ways. And I remember realizing at some point, I think it was after 1998, but that because I came from a privileged upbringing, not that I couldn't have used because I was also offered, I think all of us were, offered millions to pose in Penthouse and Playboy and the other things. And I realized that because I came from an upper middle class family, that I had the option to not do that. Not that I wouldn't have wanted the money or couldn't have used it, but that I was able to say no. And so that was it was a really eye-opening moment for me of recontextualizing that sometimes, I mean, obviously there's, you know, a lot of sex positive choices that people make to pose in magazines, and that's not this. This is like someone is worried about how they're gonna pay their rent or feed their children, and this is the only option they are given in our society at times. So I just wanted to ask you to share with all of us, like, how you prepared for that scene, what the scene meant to you.
Yeah.
Anything?
That was the first day we met. That was our meet cute.
Show me your boobies.
Welcome. I got a spray tan. Congratulations. I got a good one. It's important for many reasons, which I'll get into. First, kind of and foremost about that scene, as we were in the process, you know, we shot over 10 months, and as we got closer to episode 10, I would check in with Brad and Nina, and I would, and Sarah would be like, "Are we gonna do the Penthouse scene?" And we all felt like it was imperative, it was crucial. And from the day that I got the job, I sort of prayed that it would be a part of her story, because I think that it goes back to how I saw her originally. The first time that I saw Paula Jones or figured out who she was or knew anything about her was from a Jay Leno sketch, where you see her husband knocking on a trailer door, and she comes out and she goes, "What are you doing? Keep your pants on. That's what I told the president." You know, it's this like terrible sketch. And it was in a trailer. And that was something that she always talked about in these interviews. She'd be like, "I don't understand why people are calling me trailer trash. Why does that have to be a connotation with me?" And there was such an emphasis on her class because of the way that she sounded and looked. And then in the end, after all of these people used her and took her money and she had nothing, and the man that she did all of this for left her, or I like to believe that she left him, at the end of it all, she still couldn't take care of her kids and she couldn't pay the bills. And because she was sensationalized and put out there in such a horrific way in the media, the only way that she could make a living was to use that to make it back. She also did like a celebrity boxing match with Tanya Harding, who was another woman at that time who was, you know, sensationalized in a way that was just horrific. I find that so shocking and just an imperative piece of her story. And I think it's another sort of area of empathy that we have as an audience for her now that we didn't then. And I think that's one of the most important functions of this show. You know, I always say the show is like an act of social justice in the way that it forces us to reevaluate how we could have been better and how we could be better now. And the way that we treat people. And I got a spray tan for a couple of reasons. But mostly I brought in pictures because that was a very specific spray tan. It was very, very specific to the 90s, which most of our hair, makeup, and wardrobe was, down to the spray tan.
So for those of you who, the actors, if you feel comfortable, was there a really personal experience that you had in your own life that you drew upon for a particular, either an aspect of your character or a specific scene?